Hello and welcome to Gen Friends. I am Cheri Hudson-Passy from Carolina Girl Genealogy, and I'm your host of the show. And with me tonight, we have a full house. We've got a great panel. We have got Cheri O'Connell, and she is the executive director of the In-Depth Genealogist. Hi, Cheri. It's good to have you back.
Hey, Cheri. Thanks.
You're on your worldwide travels. It's great to have you back. We're glad. And then we've got Mary Kircher-Roddy from MKR Genealogy. Hi, Mary.
Hi there.
And Mary, you're in Seattle?
I'm in Seattle.
That's right. That's right. And all the way from Canada, depending on where you're watching this from, it could be next door. We've got Catherine Lake Hogan. Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
And your business is Looking for Ancestors, your blog, Looking for Ancestors, right?
Yep.
Yep. Great. And then last but not least, we've got Family Tree Girl. We've got Shelley Murphy in the house. We're so glad
Hello,
you're here.
everybody. Hi.
Hi, Shelley.
Oh, well, we are going to start off by talking about day 9 of relative race. I can't believe we're getting towards the end. But, day 9 was so important because on day 9, whoever made it to day 9, they got to meet all of the relatives that were waiting for them. And I'm so glad that we had 3 teams that got to meet all of their relatives. It was a fabulous, fabulous show. Do one of you have a team that you would like to talk about?
Who doesn't want to talk about Green Team?
I know. Precious. Oh, my gosh. Go for it, Mary.
Well, it's just, I was looking at a map because they were in Houston on day 7 and then up to Dallas. And when I looked at them going back through Houston to get down to Kima, I thought, okay, it's got to be your dad. And sure enough, there's no answer at the door. They get there and they just end up walking in the house because the door looks ajar. And then there's pictures on the table and nobody there. And then she turns around and her dad is walking in the room.
That was amazing.
Yeah, it was
amazing.
so
And
wonderful.
she said, I may have to just understand that this is all I'm going to get are the pictures and and I kept thinking, no. She's got to have a photo for the third frame in that picture they gave her.
Yes.
There's got to be a picture of him in that. And so when he walked in, the look on her face was just.
And the words, Daddy.
Yeah.
And there she went. That was it.
That was fabulous.
And she got to meet his mom too. His mom spent the day with them. So, and she had remembered her grandmother. So to have all of that, it was just wonderful.
And I think part of that is the reason why she's had so much trouble and issues growing up is because she had all these memories of this family.
Yeah.
And so she couldn't understand why she was taken from them, and she had memories of being with them, and where were they and why weren't they looking for her? And so she was able to realize that they had been looking for her this whole time and be able to be at peace with that she was able to meet them and put those pieces of the puzzle together, and they said just leaving as they left on day 9 that was the missing piece of the puzzle that she needed to complete this trip. And must have been so stressful though, wondering if that's what the day was going to end up being.
Right.
I couldn't even imagine her anticipation throughout the whole day.
Yeah, because this was it. If she didn't meet him day 9, she wasn't going to meet him on this
trip. She wasn't going to get him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, not on that trip.
Not on this trip.
The cousin that they played together, he told her, your dad is still alive.
Exactly. Right. So she knew that. She just didn't know if he was willing to meet her on this TV show.
Right.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Tough. Yeah,
it was
great.
So sweet too. I thought that her dad had hired a photographer to spend the day with them, so she would be able to have the images of the activities. Because I mean, it's a different event, but almost like your wedding, that you don't remember a lot of it just because you're so emotional on this thing. So to have those pictures to be able to look back on, I thought was really so thoughtful of him.
I agree. Terry, were you going to say something? I thought you were going to.
Same thing Mary said.
Great minds think alike.
Exactly. I was kind of worried about Team Green getting to the relative, though, because of the challenge. And then
The
the
history.
the
Yes.
challenge this week was
Yeah.
on that day, and they had to go and put the dates in order, and then they had pictures of different activities, different
Yeah.
events, and they had to put them. They were struggling, and I was surprised that they were struggling. Radio,
Radio.
2012, first radio broadcast.
But
That
again,
2012. Like,
yeah.
what are
But
you
the thing of it
thinking?
is, this is
Yeah.
what's changed with these generations now. You know, where Jerica had it down packed.
She did.
She had the history down packed.
She was very good at that. Now,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
worried about Joe in it because he
But
said the
he
only
had
history.
2012 and forward.
That's all
He
he
couldn't get anything.
Yeah.
Oh, he cracks me up. I'm just thinking, are you
He's the
kidding me?
cutest
He
thing.
is so cute. But yeah, I was worried. But
Yeah.
the red team, man, they were good. They
Yeah.
got theirs
They
pretty
did
well.
good.
Somebody said last night, tweeting while we watched the show, that their kids watching said, you know, the clue is if it's in black and white, the picture, obviously, it's an early
Yeah.
event. Don't put it on 2012 or later.
Although the Louisiana Purchase, they did have a colored map.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
But I
but
just
you
thought that
know
was
what?
funny.
Yeah.
What,
That was
Yeah.
funny.
when,
Kids could figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
on the Louisiana Purchase, and I turned to my family when my son was still here at the time. I said, wait a minute, that's Jefferson, he died in 1826, guys. July 4th, back it up. You know, and I thought, put this piece together, and then I thought, they don't know that. I don't know that. I know that because I live down the road from the house. But you know what I mean? It had to happen before he died, because I looked at my brother and I said, Meriwether Lewis, Clark, right? Isn't that Louisiana? He died, you know, so on. So that's how I concluded. And I thought, no, back it up. So
I really do think, though, that a lot of these challenges, it's the stress.
they're hard.
There are probably things that they look back and think, oh my gosh, I knew that. But
Right.
Yeah.
And
The
the
stress.
exhaustion too, because they're exhausted as well. So your brain is not functioning at top notch.
Yeah.
You
got
know, so
that
the
right.
stress, the exhaustion, and then you're asked to be, you know, recalling information that you know, on your day-to-day basis. Remember, they're not all genealogists, they're not
No.
historians
No.
like we are,
No.
right? So
No.
on a day-to-day basis, they're not, you know, recalling all this information. So
Forgot.
yeah, we gotta cut them a little bit of slack
Just a
there,
little.
you know.
so very true. So very true.
But
So
I think
go
those challenges, along with the stress, is the time they're given. They had 15 minutes to do that. So that just added to it, you know, all over, besides being tired, already meeting people and on this journey, 15 minutes to solve
Right.
that. What was it? 8 different history type
It was
eras?
10.
or
10.
10?
10.
exactly.
Oh my
and
God.
knowing
Yeah.
that strike was coming at the end of the
Yeah,
day, you know,
exactly.
that
Right.
puts extra
Exactly.
pressure on.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
I don't know if you guys caught this, but Austin from Team Red called them the geriatric tortoises.
I
I
That's a
thought that
good
was
one.
I thought that was really
Yeah,
cute.
that was good.
But those geriatric tortoises knew that history, and they did that
did.
pretty quickly.
Right.
So
That's right.
speaking of red team, Austin got to meet some more cousins from her mom's line. I
Yeah.
thought that was really fun for her. You know, she gets so
Yeah.
excited when they're her relatives.
Right.
and they got to go. Have you ever gone axe throwing
But it looks
before?
I loved it. I want to do that. I wonder if they've got one of those around Charlottesville. I want to throw an axe. But I'm going to hit something.
I'm thinking after a
coming.
yeah,
Huh?
I'm thinking after a day of, you know, research and I can't find somebody, whew, that would be a good
Perfect. Perfect.
get that stress out. But yeah, I had
Yeah.
never seen that before.
No.
I
But
thought that was
what a
really
great
cool.
activity.
That was a great
Mhm.
activity.
And 9 times out of 10, they've never done it before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And speaking of things people haven't ever done before, once again, we get
Ride
to
a bike.
we get
The
to
bike.
Team Black. Are you kidding me?
Oh my
The
God.
first clue was, though, when they got to the house and it was cousins,
Yeah.
and twins, which I thought was really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Twin cousins, and they said, "We have an adventure for you." And I went, "Oh no,
No, poor Joe.
Joe, that's immediately.
poor guy." And then they say, "We're going to go mountain biking," and then they take him to this. It looked really cool though. It was
It
like
did.
a cave thing.
Yeah.
That, you know, would
Yeah.
go
It was. They were in a cavern. Yes.
Yeah, and Joe says, apparently people take mountain bikes up and ride on mountains. Apparently they do.
Oh my
The
God.
one thing I really liked about Team Black is a little bit of their naivete, and because they're so young and they don't have, that all that world experience, it lended comedic relief to what was happening, because you've got, all that was going on with Team Green and how emotional that was.
Yeah.
Then you add what's going on with Michael and his storyline in Team Red and how emotional that is.
Yes.
To have some of that quirky stuff going on with Joe and Jerica on Team Black just really gave a little bit of emotional relief. We could have a chuckle and a laugh and kind of like breathe, and pull it back together before the next emotional thing happens,
So right.
Yeah.
You're so right. And I just enjoyed how much they loved meeting those relatives. That
They did.
Yes.
it really was something that they, so they're going to just look forward to going back and meeting them again, and they're going to have these connections forever. And it was interesting because one of the twins, after they'd come back from their adventure mountain biking and they were eating pizza, and he said, they're just automatic friends.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You find out you're connected and you're automatic friends.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't think
Go ahead.
we're too far. I don't think we're more connected than we think we are.
Oh,
No
absolutely.
matter where you come from or what line you're doing or whatever, we're actually more connected than we think, especially if you hit a common area. Then there it goes. That sets off the tone right there. Because earlier in another episode, they were up in Connecticut, and that was Stonington, New London, Stonington, Connecticut. And I think it was Jerica. No, it might have been Michael.
Yeah, they were
Mike
the
and
ones that were up
Austin.
there.
They were up there. And, that's a line where I have folks coming from. And it was like, oh, I'm looking at it. I'm seeing this. Now I don't have to take the trip. No. But it was just interesting that when you connected, because Michael's travel or experiences weren't quite as emotional as Precious.
Right.
But actually it was, when he met brothers, sister, but then the tragedy about his parents way back, and not his parents, but his father.
Right.
But everybody was there for him. All these siblings, right up until everybody they met, except for Austin's mom's side of the family. But it was just so interesting and of course emotional. I teared up throughout this whole season, and I'm going to make a bet, but I'm not going to say it unless everybody does it, on who's winning next week. So, I'm voting for somebody, and I'll tell you if we talk about that. But anyway, who's going to win on day 10.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
I know. I'm not saying.
Oh, goodness. Well, before we go to the Skype call, is there anything else about the travel or the race that anybody wants to bring up before we get to the Skype call?
Well, I was just going to, before we went live, I was just saying to you and Cheri, that, last night, you and I were both on Twitter watching, when the show was live and tweeting, and so a little bit of distraction. So I went back today and rewatched, day 9 of Relative Race, and I'm distracted. Ooh, where are them tissues?
Yeah.
Because it was emotional last night, but then just having just entirely focusing on it was even more so. So I'm just telling, stock up on those tissues and have them handy if you go and watch it again and undistracted. You're gonna need them.
Yes.
Exactly.
One of the things I wanted to just touch on was the genealogy in this one. and it was with Joe and Jerica. That the
Mhm.
cousins said, this is the couple that we're related through, and they said we've heard those names, and to make that connection, I thought was really cool, because a lot of times the genealogy has been kind of lost. I think in this season, there's a lot more emotional stuff, and some of the historical genealogy, I guess I'll say, has been kind of missing. So I was excited to see that.
Yes, we've seen a few
charts.
charts and entries and things like that, but not
Mhm.
nearly as much as we have in the past. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, so it was nice to see them, and they probably have. They've probably sat with each of the relatives that they've met, and they've gone through and they've seen it. We just didn't get to see it. So,
No.
and as genealogists, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
We want to know. Okay, you say they're cousins. You tell us how
know.
and where. Don't just
Well-
say it's a cousin.
Right.
And I they're talking John Highfield and Catherine
Applegate.
Applegate,
go.
and I immediately got on the computer and started typing in the names, because I got to figure out who those
Of
people
course
are.
you did.
We're not shocked.
We are so surprised, Mary. Of course you did. Oh, I love that you do that. I love that you do that. It just makes me happy.
What came to mind when they announced that, Mary, for me was, now I wonder if she connects to Christina's Applegate.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Never know.
Oh, now that's a thought.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Applegate was on Finding Your Who Do
No,
You
she
Think You Are?
Who do you
Who do you think you are? Yeah.
And that was her dad's side of the family too.
And it was just such a sad story all around.
Yeah.
So sad. So sad.
But it goes back to Shelley's point. We're all connected somewhere. Shelley and her cousin somewhere.
Yeah,
One of
but
these
I have another 2 cousins on this panel too.
days. See, we're all related.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're all
Kathy and
related.
I got some strange ones back there.
That's so funny. Well, then we get to the Skype call, and the Skype call is wonderful. I've said from the beginning of the season, I love the Skype call. I hate the results, but I love the
All
Skype
right,
call.
this is going to be new for me, so I'm going to be quiet.
I love the support they give each other. I love watching Dan get all choked up as
yeah.
he's talking about their stories.
Yeah.
And I love that they introduce their relatives to each other. They
Yes.
turn those, laptops, and they show them who they've found. And I love
So
that.
proud.
I love seeing that support. I mean, it's true support. And it's like Joe said last night. He said, you are our family too. We've met all these wonderful people,
Mhm.
but the teams are our family, and we will get together. So it's time for the results. I'm really hoping that Team Red got a strike, so
Yeah.
everybody can go to day 10.
Yeah.
Not so much.
I
Didn't
won't
happen.
say a word.
Anybody want to break the bad news? I can't do it.
So Green came in first. I think they were 38 minutes over their time.
Which surprised
Yeah.
me, since they had
Yeah.
so much
Yes, I
trouble
think
on their
it was
challenge.
38. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was Red Team at
46, I think.
46.
Over.
But
Yeah.
they were already going to be there. We already knew.
Right.
Already knew it.
Yeah.
I Green was closer than that. They were more like 20, because Red was 38 and Black was like 40.
Yeah.
43 or
9
something.
minutes
Yeah.
later. It was
Yeah.
9
Yeah.
minutes.
Either way.
Yeah.
Either
Yeah.
way. Black team
9
got a
minutes.
strike.
Yeah. Yeah.
Team
That wrong
Black.
turn, Joe. That wrong turn.
That wrong turn. I know. Constant wrong turns.
Jerica and Joe, they were so happy for Precious
Yes.
and Mike, the parent, because their stuff is all intact. So that was new, probably something new, or something they would never be able to compare, because they had both their parents.
Right.
Or they knew some of their family and things like that. So they were so excited, I felt, for when they heard that Precious met her dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be funny, not funny, but it'd be interesting for them to be able to go back and see the taping and how all that went, because they're getting it on the Skype call. but
Right.
to go back and see what
and
happened.
watch that.
Be
Exactly.
interesting. Yeah.
Erica said it well last night when she said, we came on here to meet family. We came to have an adventure.
Yes.
And we've done that.
Mm-hmm.
We've met everybody. We've fulfilled everything we wanted to do. So we're okay.
Yes.
Move on and let everybody else go. And I
Yeah.
thought that was really sweet, considering that they were young. And usually you get those youngs who are like, we're in it for the money.
Exactly.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we did what we came for. We've accomplished that. So it's our time and we're okay.
Yeah.
But we kind of wish that red team would have just fell back and thought, you know what, we'll take that strike so everybody could go.
Yeah, wouldn't that been nice? Yeah. Oh well, it would have been nice. I think the saddest part for me last night was watching them take everything out of the car.
I know. Pictures.
No,
The lines they had hung
I
up. I'm so sad.
but I was happy because I wanted another team to make 10 with red.
I wanted all three of them. I
Well,
wish
we
it could have
couldn't,
worked out.
and
that
I
way.
thought that was going to happen because by blue team dropping out, remember it could have been all three of them competing, and I thought, well, that'll be interesting,
It would've been fun.
So
Would've
it
been
didn't.
fun.
There's two teams, and
Exactly.
they deserve it. They got it. They worked
So
for it.
so Team Green gets the day 10 benefit. What the heck? It looked like a
Doesn't red have one too?
Red only has one.
red only has one.
Right.
But when they got that last night, that day 10 benefit, what on earth is that supposed to be? You know what? It looked like a puzzle piece cut out of like linoleum or something.
No, it might be a piece of a map. I don't know.
And it could be. It could very well be. So from the clips from next week, did anybody get a clue as to where they were going?
No.
No, I tried. They showed on something New Hall.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I saw
Googled
that.
and
Yeah.
the only thing that came up for me was a new hall for a college in Illinois.
Yeah, it's some sort of college thing, I
It's
think,
not in
based on the
DC?
prices that we
Yes,
saw.
I agree.
I agree with
Um,
you. I
yeah.
agree. Based on the day 10 benefit,
And the flags, and I forget what it was because
Chicken.
blue team got the mascot that was like
Yes.
a rooster
Right.
at the beginning. I think there's some sort of college thing.
they started
And then
at a
you gotta
college,
figure-
they're going to end at a college. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Right. You got to figure too how long. I mean, look at the distance, how far each
They're
team
flying 'em.
is.
Flying.
Right.
Totally
They fly
flying.
them in.
Flying, yeah.
I
Okay.
think so.
Okay.
I
That's
think
good.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Houston and New Jersey are not close enough
No.
that they could drive anywhere. So, yeah,
And that would not be fair. They'd be so
Yeah.
exhausted they wouldn't even
Yeah.
be able to do anything.
Right.
yeah, they're
So-
going on an airplane.
So predictions? What do y'all think?
I
Who's
think it's
winning?
tough.
It depends
going
on what
for
they have
red.
to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if it's more of bring history kind of stuff, Team Red, they
They
kind
got
of
it.
excel a little bit at that.
Yeah,
with her journal.
Whereas if it's physical,
Then
then
Team Green's got-
obviously Paris and Precious, because they're younger, they're
Right.
physically fit.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
where they've got a little
Yeah.
bit more of an advantage.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I guess it'll depend on, those day 10 benefits.
yeah.
If
Are
they
they
are
going to
benefits,
be
we can
helpful or
figure
are they
out.
not going to be
Yeah.
helpful? So I don't
I'm
know.
going with red. I think they're kind of just for what she just described is the reason I think they'll probably win. But again, it depends. It
Yeah.
depends. We'll know as soon as we, they start in on the activity, we'll
exactly.
know
Well,
from there. Because
The
wasn't last
tortoise
year
and the
DC?
hare.
The tortoise and the hare. There we go.
I'm good with either team. They were two of the teams I really wanted to see at the end. So I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll be happy with either team. I
Yeah.
really do. I think
of
I'll be
course.
happy whichever team, because at this point, the money's just that extra little
Right.
icing on
Right.
the cake. They
both have earned it.
their purpose for being on the show was completed. And so
Mhm.
now
The
it's just
intensity of Mike and his family and Precious looking for hers, they couldn't have hit it, any harder because I think I cried more this season compared to last season. I mean, when Precious met her mom's sister,
Yeah.
lost it. I thought,
Exactly.
oh my gosh. So there's so much on both sides. You know, it was good. It was a good
A
season.
lot of crying and a lot of laughing this year. So it was-
And you think of Jerica and Joe as the father son in the previous season. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
Yeah.
His name was Mike too, I think.
Yeah, his name was Mike. Yeah, his name
Yeah.
was Mike. So we've had a lot of Mikes, a lot of Joes. A lot
Joe. Yeah.
so, oh, so funny. Well, you know, speaking of finding those relatives, we probably need a segue on over to Long Lost Family and the episode that has Robin and Marcella is what we're going to talk about. So let's start with Robin. He was looking for his biological mom. He was adopted at a young age. I think that he said he was like 5 days old or something when they brought him home from the hospital. And he had 3 brothers, and he always wondered why he looked a little different. So then he was told he was adopted, but the 3 younger brothers were all biological to his adopted parents. So that in and of itself was a struggle for him growing up, and he wanted to find his biological mom. Anybody want to take that storyline and
Well, I just want to add that I was really concerned about his story because he sounded angry.
Thank
Yes, he did.
you. Yes.
He sounded really angry, like why? Because he got Catholic Charities sent him, I guess, his non-identifying information, and with it was a letter from the mother. And it basically had said that she had other children, but she had to give him up. She loved him. The siblings loved him.
Yeah.
And he couldn't fathom if she can raise the other kids. Why him? He wanted to know what he did wrong.
right. That I think it would have made me angry too.
Anything wrong?
Nothing wrong, but I think that would have made me have a little bit of anger issues too. Why me? Why did you give
Well, I
me
think,
up?
but you know what? I think as an adult, if you really sat and thought on that, Cheri, you would have come back to there has to be something.
Yeah.
This is a mother who knows the love between a mother-child.
True.
She could not have done that easily.
But
True.
I think that what I recall from the episode was that he knew a long time ago that he'd had other siblings.
Yeah.
The letter from his mom was a more recent thing, and that did soften his attitudes, I think. He was years ago he knew about it and he was really angry, and it was only fairly recently that he had gotten that letter, so that was starting to soften him a little bit.
Yeah, but I was very, very concerned on how that was going to go. And
I agree with you.
It was very nice to see that when they did come together, because obviously they found the mother, that, he found out that she was very young. She did have these other kids. She was a single mom. She never thought about terminating the pregnancy. She knew that somebody out there would be able to give him a home and a family and the love that he needed.
And she couldn't.
And she knew she couldn't. Yeah. So, it was definitely good all around. And he told her, I did have those things. I did have love. I did have a good family. And thank you. But they did, all that melted from him where you first found him and you heard that kind of anger in him, all melted. And he said, I want you to be a part of my life. I want you to be a part of my children's lives. Now we've seen how that goes when people jump the gun, but I truly hope for them that they can make that peace and really build those families.
Have you ever watched the follow-up shows? They did a whole segment.
Yeah.
You did, Mary?
Yeah.
That was good. How things after
Yeah.
they have the get reunited per se, and the follow-up. Not all of them work out.
No, because they jumped the gun.
Yes.
They do. Sometimes they do jump the gun. And I was wondering if afterwards he was able to meet those half brothers of his, and how that may have gone.
And I always wonder, like, what was the next step? How did it go?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I find it interesting, a lot of these cases, that they're very interested in finding their biological moms and not so much their biological dads. I just think that's very interesting. I mean, some do. I mean, we had Precious, on Relative Race looking for her, both sets, but a lot of times it seems like what they're looking for are their biological moms. And I think it's just that connection of that woman who you grew inside of her, and gave birth to you. And I think that's that they're looking for that connection.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they were able to find her, and they did go through the steps of how they were able to find her. It's just amazing the things I can pull up, and I wonder how many people watch that and go, boy, that's scary.
As a Canadian, I'm telling you, as a Canadian, because our privacy laws are different, and I'm like, well, we can just pop onto the California birth, and I'm like, what? And then they're like, well, and then for the other one, they were like, well, we can just look at the Kentucky births and divorce. I'm pardon me, like I was stunned, totally stunned at the amount of information that was available on Ancestry for them to just pull that up, because I can only speak for Ontario, but I think the other provinces are similar, and that our privacy laws are much, much stricter, and what is released to the public is nothing like that. In America, I'm like, whoa.
I'm going to segue for just a minute, Catherine, just to kind of give you how crazy our open stuff is. I have a cousin who separated herself from the family. She moved away. One cousin knows where she is in case anything happens. That's it. My aunt and cousin come over and they're like, let's see if we can find her. Within 10 minutes, I found her, because our city directories have all your previous addresses.
Yep.
I'm like, that's her. So they called, and the lady pretended it wasn't her. And I'm like, no, that's her. We know it's her. Wow. We were like, we're going to get in the car and we are going to drive. We are going to do a summer road trip one year and just end up at her house.
So, she's moving now because she's watching this episode. She knows you're coming after her. So
she doesn't care about the family. I mean,
that's sad.
It is very sad. Like, you just totally separate yourself.
I'm sure it was for a reason in her mind.
Probably.
Yeah. And it's hard for us.
It is. It's a generation
that way, because you're still with everybody.
I don't know it all, but sit back and think this is craziness.
Yeah.
But I get it. I know.
Yeah.
But that just shows you how open things are in some of the places.
Well, we hit that brick wall and we don't find them. Not everything is open.
Not everything. But and they probably use some techniques that they're not telling us about.
Well, they're gonna,
we all don't have Jen Utley on speed dial either.
Exactly.
That's my God. and doesn't it give the appearance that, the kit just got there? 24 hours. Here's what we found. Something interesting.
Right. 24 hours later, Jen calls you and tells you.
Yeah. She can build any tree in 5 minutes.
Exactly.
It was 3 weeks. 3 weeks was the quickest one I got a return on from Ancestry. And I didn't believe it. I thought something was wrong. So.
Well, they use the same kind of techniques to deal with Marcella and looking for her birth mother. So she had a rough time too. Very, very rough time. She was 10, and some girl on the playground says to her, "Oh, well, you were adopted." I'm thinking, how did a 10-year-old girl on her playground know that she was adopted, and she didn't know? Obviously, this girl's parents knew.
Yeah.
Neighborhood gossip. Yeah. And she overheard it. And can you imagine finding out that you were adopted like that?
That's bad.
Then she goes home and confronts her parents, and they, 10 years old. Ouch. No wonder she
massive,
no wonder she struggled.
Emotional damage.
I love that she went outside the realm of normalcy.
Gosh. Psychics and card readers.
I love it. Well, look, they got some information right.
Some they did.
But they did. Remember,
that's kind of scary.
What was that? The location?
Austrian. Yeah,
Austria.
Yes. I thought that was pretty good. But
amazing.
And people do it, regardless if you believe it or not. people do it.
Yep, they
You
do,
know.
because they're looking for answers. They
Yes.
want to have
They're gonna try it.
something.
When you're desperate like that,
Yeah.
And they didn't talk very much about her childhood, except for the fact that she knew when she was 10. And so that's saying a lot about maybe what her childhood wasn't the best, and
We don't know. Or there could be, now that she's chosen to publicly announce that she wanted to meet her biological mother, how much stress that's put on her, the relationship with her adoptive family.
Exactly.
Yeah, we just don't know of what's going on behind the scenes.
Right. And because normally we hear things like, thank you, I'm glad you did this, I had a great life, you made the right decision. There was none of that in this story. None of that at all. And
so I think it was pretty bad.
It may be the bitterness from that finding out when she was 10, maybe, problems started happening that, we don't know.
Right,
But I mean,
don't know.
but she did talk about, some addictions and things like that she was trying to fill holes the wrong way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, those things are real. And you just feel for people when they have to go through those things. And again, we're all genealogists or family historians, whatever label we want to carry. So we're going to look at it differently. But out in that I'm going to say out in the real world, not that we're not, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
People that are not in this realm don't get it that way. They don't get it. And of course, everybody needs that special friend that, it's either the genealogy buddy or the cousin or the one neighborhood friend that knows everything, about you. And if anyone's going to find me, if I'm missing, my family will know who to call first. And if that person doesn't know, then something happened.
Then something's wrong. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
So who would like to take off with her story and who they found and the reasons and that type of thing as to why she was placed for adoption? Mary, you haven't said a lot tonight.
I watched it a week ago, and so I just kind of forget the details. Sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine.
Well, I can because I happen to just watch it like
all right, go right ahead.
Before. So, Marcella's mom and the biological father were really quite young. They were in high school. Her mom was 16. I think she said when she met Marcella that she had just turned 16 when she gave birth to her. So she was quite young. So apparently the biological mom had met the biological father in high school. They were like 14, something like that. And it was, he seemed to kind of been the bad boy, typical bad boy. And, those bad boys, they're very attractive.
They
can be really attractive. And, she got herself into some trouble with hanging out with him. And she said this, that they had decided to borrow the neighbor's car one night and got themselves into some trouble and they got busted. And, then she finds out, she's now on probation. And it was through the probation officer that her mother found out that she was pregnant. So, you can see how that just didn't go well. So 16, you've got yourself into some trouble. Obviously, I don't think her mother was too thrilled with that guy, so what are you going to do? Right. You got to give, like Marcella's mother had said, her mother had said to her, you got to start thinking about this. You're 16. You've just turned 16. How well are you going to be able to care for that child? It's such a big responsibility. And that's when she realized that no, she is not going to be able to do that on her own, that the best that she could do for her was give her up for adoption. And she even said, that, because he asked her, did you hold her? She said, no, I would go and look at her, but they told me at the hospital not to hold her. so that she did not develop that bond, so that she was able to give her up for adoption.
Yeah. Very,
Good,
very
good
difficult.
synopsis.
Yeah, very,
Yeah.
very difficult situation. And just to throw back to Robin's real quick, his biological mother did get to hold him, and she wasn't supposed to.
Yes.
And it was an accident. The nurse just put him on her stomach, and she was able to hold him. And she said that she had changed her mind, and they said, no, it's too late.
Too late.
Yeah.
Right.
She'd already signed, and it
Yeah.
was too late. So
Yeah.
wow, tough.
Well, actually,
Tough.
don't the parent sign on behalf of because she was basically underage?
No, I'm talking about
Robin's mom.
Robin's mom. I
Robin's
kind of
mom.
went
Yeah.
back for a minute to Robin's
Yeah,
mom
that's
and
right.
his birth. Yeah.
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 That's
yeah.
right.
So yeah, so Marcella gets to meet, you know, she was so excited. She found me. Wow. You know, and so they were able to meet, and I thought that went really well. I hope that they can, you know, continue that relationship.
Right.
You know, I think there's something to be said when it's that type of situation where, you know, somebody's so young and you know, although it sounds like she didn't have, and we don't know, maybe they just didn't bring it out. Maybe her upbringing was really okay. But I can't imagine what it would have been like had her biological mother kept her. I can't imagine it would have been any better for her at 16 on probation, the things that, you know, it just, how could she have taken care of her? So,
Right.
but I'm hoping, and she has two half sisters,
Right.
and some nieces that they were excited about her meeting. So I'm hoping that that one went okay, and they were able to, you know, have a relationship. And it wasn't, I didn't feel that one was overwhelming. A lot of times it's like, I'm your mom now, and you know, and that kind of thing. Yeah, you gave birth to them.
Yeah.
They have parents who've raised them, and it's got to feel kind of awkward for somebody to just jump in like that and say, you know, I'll be your mom now, and I'm your dad now, and it's got to be, no matter how much you want to find them, sometimes I feel like they push a little too hard. And I think, and Terry was saying that earlier, that just sometimes I worry about those when we see them, that they're pushing so hard, and everybody needs some time, you know, and they're filming this on television. You know, how much time have they had to really
And some of it, I'm sure, has a little bit of staging, of course. I don't know how they get to the end if that is not staged on that last day or that last 5-10 minutes when they first meet. I don't know. But you know, a lot of that gets staged in there. And so it's guided. But some of those feelings and things, you feel them.
Oh, sure.
And or the questions come up,
Oh,
you know,
you know, that's real.
mouth.
That's real.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that is real. I really do. And I think I have to give kudos to the shows, you know, how they can make us sit back and have that experience with them, or we immediately go back and say, okay, well, I know what happened when I told my parents I was pregnant. I was older, 19, in college, and it was a oh darn thing. And wait, how did that happen? Type thing, you know. And anyway, and they looked at me, never said a word. There was no judgment. I was 19 going on 20. And my dad said, you know what you have to do? Never said another word. Nothing. It was happy go lucky. Everybody was supportive, and just, you know what you got to do. That's all he had to say. That was my child. That was my responsibility. You know, that was it. There was no other question, you know. And again, but the environment I was raised in, that was the clue. You did it. Okay, let's deal with it, you know, type thing. Matter of fact, that baby is flying back to Japan right now. He's still in the air 46 years later, you know. But it was there was no discussion of anything, which I have girlfriends their families had those discussions.
Mhm.
They had discussions just like, I've got to give this child up. One of my friends, she got sent to the auntie, out in the
Yes.
Midwest.
Right.
She's gone for a
Right.
few months, and
Mhm.
we all knew what was going on.
Oh,
but
exactly.
Mama always, she's at her
Exactly.
aunt's helping her aunts out. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
So, but what the parents do, I think, is major impact.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Mhm.
Because, and like I said, had her mom not sat down with her and she'd kept her, I just don't know how that would have worked out with a 16-year-old
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
had no,
No.
really no business raising a child.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So, to put it plainly, and I'm not trying to disparage any other 16-year-old that's raised a child. Everybody's situation is unique, and they've got to do what's
Mhm.
best for them.
And the
What
child.
they feel is best
Yeah.
for that baby. So,
Yeah.
well, that was, another great episode of Long Lost Family, and another wonderful episode of Relative Race, and day 10 coming up. Can't wait to see who pulls it off, and another episode of Long Lost Family on the next time we get together and talk on Gen Friends. So I want to thank you all for being here. I appreciate it so much. It's wonderful to have a full house and have you all be here. Thank you so much, and I'll say good night, and we'll see you next time on Gen Friends. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.